Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to another episode of the Tigers Baseball Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Schulte, and you know what? We're going to turn that off because I can. A little bit late. There's been a lot going on here at the Schulte compound. And so it's been hectic. Let's put it that way. But we're here. We're here now. Better late than never. This podcast was originally slated to be recorded on Monday, April 8th, pre-eclipse, but it ended up being recorded on April 10th, 2024. So that's where we are right now. Different setup. I've changed some microphones and sound cards and things like that, and so the audio quality is going to be different, and it is what it is. But the recording software is still the same, and we're happy about that. So with all of that, let's go ahead and get into some things. The Tigers right now, as of this recording, are 7-4. They're in second place, behind the Cleveland Guardians, who are luckier than they should be to be where they are. But we will get into that shortly. Injury report real quick. Sawyer Gipson-Long was supposed to come back and, he started a rehab assignment on Sunday. He went 3 innings, I think it was. And by all intents and purposes, pitched pretty well. The problem is he's experienced forearm tightness after the outing. So he's back on the injured list. We'll see where that goes. Ryan Kreidler broke his index finger getting hit by a pitch, his right index finger. He's on the injured list. Those are minor league injuries, but those are depth injuries as far as I'm concerned. Gio Urshela is out with a hamstring injury from the big club. As a result, Wenceel Perez has been called up to take his place. Now, this just goes along with Scott Harris's plans. Not Gio Urshela. Why did I say that? Andy Ibanez. Wow, it's late. Andy Ibanez is out with a hamstring injury. Gio Urshela is playing quite fantastic. Thank you very much. This just goes along into Scott Harris's plans. And I don't mean the injury, because nobody plans for your players to get hurt. Nobody wants your players to get hurt. But it goes along with Scott Harris's plans because a lot of people are going to think, well, we've heard so much about Jace Young. We've heard so much about Justin Henry Malloy. Why aren't those guys the ones that are getting called up? Why is Wenceel Perez getting called up? And the answer is versatility. So Andy Ibanez plays really well defensively on the infield. Wenceel Perez does not, but Wenceel Perez does give you strong outfield defense. And Andy Ibanez does okay in the outfield as well. So what you're going to see is more of Gio Urshela moving around the field, if at all. More of Matt Vierling at third base, if Wenceel Perez actually gets a start. I don't see him getting a start. I see him being definitely a bench player, but he brings that versatility of being an infielder, being an outfielder. He runs the bases really well. He can steal you a base, and he's a switch hitter. So if it's a tough lefty-lefty matchup, let's say Riley Green is going up against this isn't going to happen this weekend because of the injured list. But let's say Riley Green is slated to hit against Caleb Thielbar. Tough lefty. Now Riley Green hangs in there against lefties, but if he's slumping, you can put Winfield Perez in, and he's a right-handed bat. Next time around, somebody else is pitching for Minnesota. He's a right-hander. Winfield Perez comes up, and he's a left-handed bat. So you can sort of force the action of the opposing manager with a player like this because let's say he's weaker from his left side. Then you'll want a right-handed pitcher to come in and force him to hit from his left side. Now, AJ Hinch is going to know that he's weaker from his left side as well, and so he's going to possibly keep Perez on the bench and hit a left-hander in that situation because that means that the opposing manager has to either bring in the right-hander to face the left-hander that is batting to keep Winfield Perez from hitting up from his weaker side, or they're going to have to bring in a left-hander and face Winfield Perez from his stronger right-handed side. Now, I don't know which side is his weaker side, which side is his stronger side. I've not dove that deep into Winfield Perez, but these are the things that you think about as a manager, and these are the things that AJ Hinch is already aware of. It's Wednesday. The Twins are coming into town tomorrow. He's already aware of who's facing who. He's already aware of who he's going to bring in when any of their pitchers are on the mound and who he wants all of his pitchers to face in certain key situations. And I know that he knows this because he has actually said publicly, I will go to pitchers and say, you're facing so-and-so in this series, and you're going to face them in these innings or in these situations, so you better be ready. He's that much of a thinker. But this fits in with Scott Harris's plans because he's got the versatility, and you also don't have to start the clock on Jace Young. You don't have to start the clock on Justin Henry Malloy. You can allow Justin Henry Malloy to stay in Toledo and get a little bit better in the outfield. You can allow Jace Young to stay in Toledo and get a little bit better at third base. You don't get hurt by bringing up Winfield Perez. You don't lose a lot. He's a different player. He's a different dynamic. Now, could Detroit use Justin Henry Malloy's bat? Of course. Could Detroit use Jace Young's bat? Of course. Detroit could also use Colt Keith's bat waking up. It might be getting in there, getting into that point. They could use Kerry Carpenter's bat to wake up. It might be getting to that point. They could use Spencer Torkelson's bat to wake up. It might be getting to that point. Let's bear in mind that, first of all, it's been really, really, really cold and really nasty up here in the north. And it's only going to get nastier. Forecast calls for rain tomorrow and Friday and into Saturday morning. We're supposed to have a 1:10 start tomorrow against the Twins. Guaranteed that game's getting called off. Guaranteed the 6:40 game on Friday night's getting called off. You'll see a 3-game series. One of them's going to be a doubleheader either on Saturday or Sunday. Probably Saturday because they prefer to do double dips on Saturdays instead of Sundays because Sunday's getaway day. And Detroit has 4 games against Texas coming up next week before going back to Minnesota on the 19th. So from that standpoint, They would like to get all 4 games in, but you're not going to see 2 doubleheaders back to back. You just won't. It's just not going to happen. So don't think that's gonna fly, because it's just not. So, and look, I picked Detroit to finish first. It's a long season, boys and girls. It's a long season, and I fully expect Detroit to be in first place at the end of it. I fully expect Minnesota to be in second. I don't think Cleveland has the staying power to stay on top of the division. And you might remember 2006, after the first half, everybody was writing Minnesota off for dead. Oh, they're done. Stick a fork in them. They're done. You know who won the division that year? The Minnesota Twins. The year that Detroit went to the World Series for the first time since 1984, they were a wild card team. They didn't actually go as division champs until 2012. They didn't actually win a division until 2011. They came close. See 2009 with the 163rd game at the Metrodome. But they didn't actually win a division until 2011. That 2016 was the team that had Placido Polanco and Justin Verlander and Craig Monroe and Curtis Granderson and Maglio Ordonez and Pudge Rodriguez. 2007, they had Gary Sheffield. 2008, they had Miguel Cabrera. I do believe they had Miguel Cabrera and Gary Sheffield on the same team. Can you imagine that? Oh. They didn't start winning divisions until 2011, and then they won 4 straight. Went to 1 World Series out of those 4. Lost in the LCS to Texas in 2011, lost in the LCS to Boston in 2013, lost in the divisional series to Baltimore in 2014. That was last year they made the playoffs. Till this year, they're going to make it. They'll be there, I promise. So what to look forward to if tomorrow's game gets played? Interesting pitching matchup. Pablo Lopez versus Tarek Skubal. I'm kind of looking forward to that. 2 people who a lot of people have said will be candidates for the American League Cy Young Award, especially now that Garrett Cole's out for 2 months. Shane Bieber's done for the year. Granted, you've got Corbin Burns, who's in the American League now, and he's no slouch. But really, the two big, there's other pitchers out there. Justin Verlander is going to come back and take a heck of a shot at it. But I think Skubal and Lopez right now, with Garrett Cole being out for the next 2 months, are they have to be 2 of your front runners. Very possible the Cy Young could end up in the American League Central this year, whether it be Tristan McKenzie from the Guardians or Pablo Lopez from the Twins, Tarek Skubal from the Tigers. There's a lot of possibilities there. So I don't have a lot more to say other than bring on the Twinkies, baby. And a lot of people will sit there and think, oh my gosh, because that's going to be the title of my podcast this week. Bring on the Twinkies. And a lot of people are going to sit there and go, man, what's this guy's diet? First he's drinking the Kool-Aid, now he wants you to bring on the Twinkies. That's kind of close, except it's more like corn dogs and Dr. Pepper. But, it'll do. It'll do in a pinch. Again, Tigers 7-4. Tough stretch of games over the next 11. They've got 4 against Minnesota. We'll see if they get all 4 of them in this weekend. 4 against Texas, and then 3 more against Minnesota. Now, the good news is that's the first. There's only 13 games against Minnesota, so you're done with them until July. Now, that's going to be a different Minnesota team in July because they'll have Caleb Thielbar back. They'll have Johan Duran back. They'll probably have Royce Lewis back. But you know what? You want to test yourself against the best. And if you can beat the best, then you become the best. So it's a squad that I'm looking forward to them playing. And I like what I'm seeing from the news articles that I'm reading, from the news reports that I'm reading, from what Spencer Torkelson and other players are saying. You know what? We got to beat these guys. These are the guys that we have to beat. It makes sense. Guess what? This is the team that won the division last year. You got to beat the team that won. They're the team to beat until they're not. So I'm really feeling good this week. I'm thinking that Detroit's going to have a winning week. They split the series against the Pirates. Look, they can't beat Oakland. They're 4-21 in the last 25 games at Comerica Park against the Oakland A's. They just can't beat the Oakland A's. Doesn't matter how bad Oakland is, and Oakland is a bad team. Detroit just cannot beat them. So I wasn't too thrilled when I saw that the home opener was going to be against them. I'm very pleased with the road trip that they had, going 5-1 in the first 6. It's encouraging, especially when you consider that two of those 5 wins were against a National League East team, and they went 21-25 against the 21-24 against the National League last year. So they needed to play better in the interleague play, and so far, granted, it's only one series and it's the Mets, but they've done well. They took a series. I don't expect them to take series against the Braves and the Dodgers, but the Giants, sure. Padres, yeah. Cubs, sure. The Brewers, yeah. Pittsburgh, they don't need to split against Pittsburgh again. They got 2 more games against Pittsburgh coming at home. They should win both of those. But I'll take a split. That's 500 ball. Should certainly beat the Marlins. Should certainly hang with the Dodgers. We've got the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks in Comerica Park this year. We've got the Phillies in Comerica Park this year. So 3 of the 4 best teams in the National League, we've got in Comerica Park this year. Okay, we've got to travel to Chicago for the Cubs. We got to travel to Cincinnati for the Reds. But guess what? Milwaukee has to come to Detroit this year. Okay, we got to travel out to San Diego and San Francisco. But Colorado has to come to Detroit. Colorado's not that good. They still have to come to Detroit. We've already taken out the Mets. Yeah, we got to travel to Atlanta. But the Nationals, team that we should beat, team that we got steamrolled by last year, they're coming to Detroit. The Marlins, team that we should beat, team that we lost 2 out of 3 to last year, they're coming to Detroit. There's no reason why we can't do better against the National League than we did last year. There's no reason for it. So again, I reiterate, this team is going to win the Central Division. I'm sticking by that claim. It's early, folks. It's only 11 games into the season. Find out how I feel when we're 140 games into the season. You know what? I'll still stick to it until we're absolutely out of the divisional race. 140 games into the season, we should be at that point. We're either completely in it or we're completely out. I think we'll still be in it. So bring on the Twinkies. I want to thank Anchor for distributing the podcast. Check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/@TB Podcast. Check us out on Twitter, @Podcast Tigers. You can email the show, tigersbaseballpodcast@gmail.com. It's the world's longest email address. I'm sort of proud of that. You can also catch us on Mastodon, TB Podcast @tweescake.social. That's TWEESE cake.social. Don't have a Facebook page? Don't want one. Don't have an Instagram page? Don't want one. Not on Snapchat, not on TikTok. Don't want to be. With that, I will catch up with you guys on Monday, hopefully. And hopefully I'm talking about a series win against the Minnesota Twins. And hopefully we play better against the Rangers next week. Thanks for listening, folks. Have a good one. We'll see you next week.